Welcome to this evening service of Tenebrae. Tenebrae means shadows, so we will extinguish candles as we go. But first, let us begin with verse 1 of number 319, Stay With Me, the Night Has Come. Our opening reading comes from both Psalm 88 and Psalm 42. You have a congregational response. I will say, "They say to me all day long," and you will say, "Where is your God?" Lord, God of my rescue, by day I cried out, by night in your presence. May my prayer come before you. Incline your ear to my song. For I am sated with evils, and my life reached the brink of Sheol. They say to me all day long, "Where is your God?" I was accounted among those who go down to the pit. I became like a man without strength, among the dead cast away, like the slain, those who lie in the grave, whom you no more recall. And they are cut off by your hand. You put me in the nethermost pit, in the darkness, in the depths, and they say to me all day long, "Where is your God?" Your wrath lay hard upon me, and all your breakers you inflicted. You distanced me from my friends. You made me disgusting to them. Imprisoned I cannot get out. They say to me all day long, "Where is your God?" My eyes ache from affliction. I called on you, Lord, every day. I stretched out to you my palms. Will you do wonders for the dead? Will the shades arise and acclaim you? Will your kindness be told in the grave, your faithfulness in perdition? Will your wonder be known in the darkness, your bounty in the land of oblivion? They say to me all day long, "Where is your God?" As for me, to you, Lord, I shouted, and in the morn my prayer would greet you. Why, Lord, do you abandon my life? Do you hide your face from me? They say to me all day long, "Where is your God?" Lowly am I, and near death from my youth. I have borne your terrors, I am fearful. Over me your rage has passed, your horrors destroyed me. They surround me like water all day long. They encircle me completely. You distance lover and neighbor from me. My friends, utter darkness. They say to me all day long, "Where is your God?" Let us sing verse 2 of Stay With Me.
They went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter and James and John, and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "My soul is deeply grieved, even to the death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I want, but what you want." He came and found them sleeping and said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake for okay, keep awake 1 hour, keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to say to him. He came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough, the hour has come. The Son of a Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. Look, my betrayer is at hand."
Just as Jesus was speaking, Judas appeared. He was one of the 12 disciples. A crowd was with them. They were carrying swords and clubs. The chief priest, the teacher of the law, and the elders had set them. Judas, who was going to hand Jesus over, had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man," he said. "Arrest him and have the guards lead him away." So Judas went to Jesus at once. Judas said, "Rabbi," and he kissed Jesus. The men grabbed Jesus and arrested him. Then one of those standing nearby pulled his sword out. He struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear.
Jesus asked, "Am I leading a band of armed men against you? Do you have to come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I was with you, I taught in tables, courtyard, and you didn't arrest me, but the scriptures must come true." Then everyone left him and ran. Away.
We will sing number 310 while I keep silence, and we will sing verses 1 and 2.
trial. Mark 14:53-65. They took Jesus to the high priest, and all the chief priests, the elders, and the scribes were assembled. Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest, and he was sitting with the guards, warming himself at the fire. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but they found none. For many gave false testimony against him, and their testimony did not agree. Some stood up and gave false testimony against him, saying, "We heard him say, 'I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another, not made with hands.' But even on this point, their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood before them and asked Jesus, 'Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?' But he was silent and did not answer. Again the high priest asked him, 'Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?' Jesus said, 'I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power, and coming with the clouds of heaven.' Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, 'Why do you still need witnesses? You have heard his blasphemy. What is your decision?' All of them condemned him as deserving death. Some began to spit on him, to blindfold him, and to strike him, saying to him, 'Prophesy.' The guards also took him and beat him." We will sing hymn 310 again while I keep silent, verse 3.
The denial, Mark 14:66-72. Peter was below in the courtyard. One of the high priest's female servants came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she looked closely at him. "You were also with Jesus, that Nazarene," she said. But Peter said he had not been with him. "I don't know or understand what you're talking about," he said. He went out to the entrance to the courtyard. The servant saw him there. She said again to those standing around, "This fellow is one of them." Again, he said he was not. After a little while, those standing nearby said to Peter, "You must be one of them. You are from Galilee." Then Peter began to curse. He said to them, "I don't know this man you're talking about." Right away the rooster crowed the second time. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had spoken to him. "The rooster will crow twice," he had said. "Before it does, you will say 3 times that you don't know me." Peter broke down and cried. We'll sing hymn 327, "Jesus, Remember Me."
before Pilate. As soon as it was morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He answered him, "You say so." Then the chief priests accused him of many things. Pilate asked him again, "Have you no answer? See how many charges they bring against you?" But Jesus made no further reply, so that Pilate was amazed. Now at the festival he used to release a prisoner for them, anyone for whom they asked. Now a man called Barabbas was in prison with the insurrectionists who had committed murder during the insurrection. So the crowd came and began to ask Pilate to do for them according to his custom. Then he answered them, "Do you want me to release for you the King of the Jews?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that the chief priests had handed him over. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have him release Barabbas for them instead. Pilate spoke to them again. "Then what do you wish me to do with the man you call the King of the Jews?" They shouted back, "Crucify him." Pilate asked them, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify him." We'll sing hymn number 327, "Jesus, Remember Me."
Reading from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 15, verses 15 through 24, the death sentence. So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers led him into the courtyard of the palace, that is, the governor's quarters. And they called together the whole cohort, and they clothed him in a purple cloak, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on him. And they began saluting him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck his head with a reed, spat upon him, and knelt down in homage to him. And after mocking him, they stripped him of the purple cloak and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. They compelled a passerby who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. It was Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull. And they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him and divided his clothes among them, casting lots to decide what each should take. Let's sing "Jesus, Remember Me," 327.
The crucifixion, reading from Mark 15:25-32. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him they crucified 2 rebels, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "Aha! You who would destroy the temple and build it back in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him among themselves and saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him also taunted him. Let's sing number 325 again. Jesus, remember me.
Mark 15:33-47. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "Listen, he is calling for Elijah." And someone ran, filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down." Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. Now when the centurion, who stood facing him, saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly this man was the Son of God." Continuing with verse 40. There were also women looking on from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James the younger, and of Joses, and Salome, who followed him when he was in Galilee and ministered to him. And there were many other women who had come up with him to Jerusalem. When evening had come, and since it was the day of preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council, who was also himself waiting expectantly for the kingdom of God, went boldly to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate wondered if he were already dead, and summoning the centurion, asked him whether he had been dead for some time. When he learned from the centurion that he was dead, Pilate granted the body to Joseph. Then Joseph bought a linen cloth, and, taking down the body, wrapped it in the cloth, and laid it in a tomb that had been hewn out of rock. He then rolled a stone against the door of the tomb. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus, saw where the body was laid. in a moment, we will sing number 323, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. And you are invited during the hymn or afterwards, as the prelude or the postlude music plays, or in the silence that follows, to come up and light one of the smaller candles or one of the tall ones. Because although we mark the death of Christ, the light of the world, this week, we are still Christ's hands and feet. In this period of mourning, of waiting by the tomb, we can still light a candle as an act of resistance, as an act of hope, all while remembering that there is also a lot that we can learn from the darkness. So I invite you to come up during the music or afterward and sit and stay by the cross, by the candlelight, as long as you'd like, even as others leave. And when you do leave, please leave in silence and keep your conversation out in the lobby to a minimum, or keep it quiet so that others can stay and reflect. Let us sing 323.